Jai Gurudev. On this auspicious day of Buddha Purnima, we are happy that Honorable Chairman of Maharishi Vedic Pandits Schools Group, Brahmachari Girish Verma ji, is offering a 1-week in residence short course on Bhagwat Geeta at Maharishi Anand Niketan, Bhopal, and today is the first day. And we have about 30 plus members on the course, and they all are with us today. Please join me in welcoming all of them. So we extend a warm welcome, and I think all of you are really blessed to attend the live sessions of this short course on Bhagwat Gita. May I now request Hema ji to speak a few words about Buddha Purnima. Hema ji, please.
Jai Gurudev. Today is a special day, as we all know, Buddha Purnima. Buddha Bhagavan's birthday and the day when he was enlightened. Moon is connected to the mind. So when your mind is settled, you receive this fullness from moon. And this is enhanced by our TM program and also by listening to the Vishnu Sahasranama. Oh, I don't know. पूरा बात करना. Okay. So I was saying about moon and connection between moon and the mind. The moon is connected to the mind. When our mind is settled, you receive the fullness from the moon. And this is enhanced by our TM program and also by listening to Vishnu Sahasranama. And if one is disturbed in mind, यदि मन अशांत है, तो अशांत बढ़ जाएगा. So whatever we have inside, that increases. If we have bliss, bliss increases on Purnima. And if we are worried and we are frustrated, that increases. That is why it is a common observance that during Purnima time, the mental hospital admissions increase because they get more disturbed with the full moon. So it's good to be regular in our TM practice because it increases inner peace and happiness. So now, today, for the benefit of our participants in this Bhagavad Gita course, I will summarize chapter 1, and then we will move on to discussion of shlokas from chapter 2. In chapter 1, Vyasa Bhagavan is setting the ground for the supreme knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to unfold. Bhagavad Gita starts with the word dharma. As you all know, first shloka is Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. So King Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya, what are my sons and Pandava's sons doing in this Dharma Kshetra, this Kshetra of Dharma, and in Kurukshetra? And Bhagavad Gita ends with the word Mama. Dhruvanitir mama. So, yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvanitir matir mama. Mama means mine. So, starts with dharma, ends with mama, which means mama dharma. So, the whole Bhagavad Gita is about telling us about what our dharma is. And this word comes many times in Bhagavad Gita. And we are also going to have a guest speaker later on in the week, Dr. Girish Mumayaji. He will give us more detailed talk on dharma. So for now, we will talk about dharma for a couple of minutes. Dharma is that invincible power of nature, which is the basis of everything in life. It maintains and supports evolution. What is evolution? Evolution means growing from a lower state to a higher state. And it is carried out with two opposing forces. And these two opposing forces are creative forces and destructive forces. When we support creative forces, this results in good. And when we support destructive forces, that results in evil. Man has the freedom of action, and he can choose good or evil. We always have a choice. Doing good results in happiness, punya. When you do punya karmas, it brings us happiness. And doing bad results in suffering. And life is as we want it, either happiness or suffering. And Maharishi gave this example. As you sow, so shall you reap. Brahmachari Girishji also mentioned today, if you put jamun seed, jamun tree will come. If you put mango seed will come. We have a choice. So that is in brief about dharma. And as we move on in the study of chapter 1, in 14th verse, the body is compared to a chariot. This comparison of body to the chariot has a metaphysical connotation. The chariot is the physiological structure. And that is body. So our body is compared to the chariot. Now, Sri Krishna Bhagavan is driving the chariot and Arjuna is sitting in the chariot. And this chariot in the battlefield, it is the vehicle for you to carry on the war. And in this battlefield of our life, this Mahabharata is going on in our life on a daily basis, not just in Kurukshetra. So in this battlefield of our daily life, this body is the chariot to carry on this purpose of dealing with these situations in life, which is like a war. So this vehicle helps us with the natural process of evolution. Now, you all know that chariot has horses, and chariot has horses, our body has senses. Our senses are like horses. And in this situation with the chariot of Arjuna and Sri Krishna, the chariot is connected to the white horses. White symbolizes sattva. So sattva stands for purity. That means the chariot is driven under the influence of purity or righteousness. When the self guides, the body moves under the influence of sattva. Sri Krishna Bhagavan symbolizes self with capital S. And the chariot he drives must be connected to white horses, which signify sattva. It stands and moves to safeguard and protect purity and righteousness. So that is the significance of chariot and the white horses that it is connected to. And then as we move on, the next important point in chapter 1 is Sri Krishna Bhagavan's first utterance and its effect on Arjuna. So in the beginning, Arjuna is very excited. He is angry. He is looking at the anger is a great enemy. It reduces one's strength. And anger is a sign of weakness. Now, Krishna Bhagavan wants to give him the knowledge, but you cannot give it to somebody who is outrageous in anger like that, number one. Number two, somebody, when they ask for knowledge or ask for advice, that's when you give knowledge or advice. So in order to bring Arjuna to this state where he can be amenable to listening, Sri Krishna Bhagavan says one short sentence. He says, Partha, look at the army gathered together. Look at the army of Kurus gathered together in the battlefield. So what he did, he called Arjuna with the name Partha. Partha means son of Pritha. Pritha is another name for Kunti. Most people know Arjuna's mother as Kunti, but she has other names, that is Pritha. Pritha's son is Partha. So when Sri Krishna Bhagavan calls him by the name Partha, it reminds him of his mother and the tender love, the tender love connection between mother and son. So the minute he thinks about his mother, the thought comes, immediately his whole heart swells with love for his mother. So his attitude changes because now love is coming in his heart because he's thinking of his mother. So this is the trick, we can say, that Sri Krishna used to bring Arjuna to this level. And it is this tender bond of love that develops into all family and social relationships that maintains a family, a society, a nation, and the whole world. So seeing all his dear ones together in one glance, now his whole heart is full of love. So now what happens? In the beginning, he said, who all are my enemies? Let me look at them. Now he is saying, Krishna, I see my relatives in the army. So there's a shift in his thinking and feeling level because now his vision is colored by love and not by enmity. And there is no anger anymore. Anger is gone. So now what's happening? Arjuna is in a situation where his heart is fully developed and his heart is full of love. His mind is also fully developed and his mind is alert. He's alert to his duty that as a Kshatriya, he needs to protect his citizens and he has to fight. So on one side, his mind says, I have to fight. It's my duty. On the other side, his heart is saying, but how can you fight and kill them? They are your relatives. So even though Arjuna's mind and heart are fully developed, there is no harmony between them. There is a conflict because mind is saying something, heart is saying something else. So that is the biggest problem for Arjuna in this situation. So when these two are united, instead of being one separate from the other, if they are united, then there will be harmony. Mind and heart are thinking alike, are feeling alike, so there is harmony. But at this point, there is no harmony. So if there is harmony, there cannot be any suffering. So Maharishi said in verse 28 that what is the cause of suffering? That is duality. There are two things, heart and mind. There is no connection, there is no harmony. So that is causing a lot of distress to Arjuna. So how do we deal with this situation of duality? Everything in life we are dealing, there is duality there. There are so many problems we are faced with. Where there is pleasure, there is pain. Where there is heat, there is cold. So these pairs of opposites are always there. And it seems like we cannot get away from them. So Maharishi of duality is to go beyond duality, to transcend. And when we go beyond duality and transcend, we experience unity, unity of being, of Atma. This is a quote from the commentary. Maharishi said, quote, then, that is when we transcend duality and experience unity, then we are bringing the non-dual element into the field of duality, which blesses man's life with a status unaffected by suffering, even while he remains in the field where suffering is possible. So in this regular, normal daily life, it is not always possible to be happy always because we are faced with so many situations. But when you bring in the element of unity, non-duality into the field of duality, then we have that underlying unity, and that way we are able to deal with all situations more effectively. So the bottom line is either suffering is eliminated with the regular practice of meditation and bringing in unity, or if suffering cannot be fully eliminated, one is able to be happy in spite of having problems, because you develop that ability to deal with the situations in a much more effective way. And I think this is the greatest blessing for the mankind, that Maharishi had given us this technique to transcend and experience that bliss always. And the next main point in chapter 1 is purity of mother. This comes in verse 41. A mother's life is the expression of the creative power of nature. Creative intelligence has to be pure in order to be effective. Impurity brings ineffectiveness, and when ineffectiveness increases, destruction is the result. For the creation of more creative and effective people, the purity of the mother's life is of great concern. For example, we know that if you take medicine that is pure, then we get good results. We get cured of the illness. But if it is kalpi, sometimes, they add other things. If the medicine is not pure, it may not work. It will not help with the illness. And then the patient can even die because the medicine doesn't work. So it's purity that is very important in life. And that's why the purity of mother's life is emphasized in that verse. Now we come to the last main point in chapter 1, in verse 42. Maharishi described the value of Pindodaka, because Arjuna's concern was, with this war, so many people are going to die, and they are going to deviate from Kula Dharma, Jati Dharma, and they may not maintain the tradition of offering Pindodaka on the anniversary, Punya Tithi of their parents or grandparents. And Maharishi said that is very important, because according to Vedic Karma Kanda, the exposition of karma or action, sons and grandsons are expected to perform certain rites and ceremonies in the name of the departed souls on the death anniversary, which is called as Punya Tithi. The performance of these rites by the direct blood relations, according to the law of affinity, because sons and grandsons, they have the same blood as their parents and grandparents. So because of this law of affinity, that brings goodwill, peace, and satisfaction to the departed forefathers, wherever they may be in the field of evolution. We don't know where they are, but it's consciousness, the departed soul's consciousness. They may be anywhere in the universe, but they will receive the ceremonies that we perform on that particular tithi. And as a result of this offering of Pindodaka, the departed souls bless their children. And this Vedic performance of Pindodaka connects the departed parents with their children on earth and serves as a channel through which the blessings flow from parents and grandparents to children and grandchildren. So these are about 4 or 5 main points in chapter 1. And that brings us to the end of chapter 1. Any questions so far?
कोई प्रश्न किसी का? जो अध्याय 1 है श्रीमद् भगवत गीता का, इसमें अर्जुन ने ये कहा कि मैं क्यों मारूं, किस कारण से मारूं, अपने जो मेरे सभी रिश्तेदार हैं, भाई हैं, दूर के लोग हैं, सब पहचान के, वो किम कर्तव्य मूल वाली भावना आ गई थी उनमें, और उन्होंने अपना धनुष और बाण पीछे रख दिए और पीछे बैठ गए रथ में। किसी को कोई प्रश्न है इसमें? क्यों ऐसा हुआ, क्या कारण था?
Okay. So now we will move on to the second chapter. In the second chapter also, in the beginning, Arjuna continues to lament for about 9 to 10 shlokas. And then finally, he surrenders to Sri Krishna Bhagwan and he says, I don't know what to do. Please tell me what I should do. And it's noteworthy that Sri Krishna Bhagwan does not give him any advice until Arjuna surrenders and asks for advice. So there is a great message in there. Sometimes people give us a lot of free advice, it doesn't cost them anything. But it is prudent to give advice when they ask for it. And after Arjuna asks for advice, then Gita discourse begins. In the beginning, from verses 11 to 38, the explanation of 2 aspects of life is given. So there are 2 aspects of life. One is a never-changing, eternal, absolute aspect of life, and the other is ever-changing relative aspect of life. So there are two sides to this. One is theoretical knowledge. When we went to college also, first we study theory, and then we go in the lab and we perform. Say chemistry lab, you go do some experiment, then you see for yourself what it is. Same way here, the theoretical knowledge is first given in the verses from 11 to 38, which describes the nature of the never-changing aspect, never-changing absolute eternal aspect of life. And then after that begins the explanation of yoga. This is the practical aspect. So how do we experience that eternal, never-changing absolute in ourselves? That is with yoga. That is the practical aspect. So just hearing the theoretical knowledge is not going to help us in any way to experience that. So for that reason, Sri Krishna Bhagavan gives the technique in verse 45 of second chapter. That is, we talked about it this morning, in the afternoon. Nistraigunyo bhava. Go beyond the three gunas. And when you go beyond the three gunas, then we experience the silence of Atma. So this is the technique of self-realization. And then once we experience that inner silence, then we come out and act. We don't stay there all the time. And when we come out and act, so that is in the verse 48. Yogastha kuru karmani. Establish yoga, we perform action. So this is the basis of the third chapter, Karma Yoga. This is how we perform action. How? By going inward. This is a common example we all have heard, and you pull it back first so that it develops a potential energy, and then you release it. Then the arrow will go and hit the target. So we take the time to pull it back. So in the same way, before plunging into activity, we first meditate first thing in the morning. So we are going inward and experiencing that inner energy. And then we come out and act, we bring that energy into the daily activity, and then we are more sucked to the bank and then to the market. If you go to the market without going to the bank, without going to the bank and to get money, you don't have any money to spend in the market. So it is like that. So that brings us up to the verses 49. In the last session, which you all were not there, but in our Gita Satsang last Friday, we have covered 3 verses, 49, 50, and 51. And in verse 49, we have studied that, before I move on to the last 3 verses of last session, any questions about Yogastha kuru karmani or Nistraigunyo bhava? I think by now everybody is very familiar. You all know that very well. So in 49th verse, it is said, quote, far away indeed from the balanced intellect is the action devoid of greatness, O winner of wealth. Take refuge in the intellect. Pitiful are those who live for the fruits of action. In this word, Buddhi Yoga is introduced. There are many kinds of yogas, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, like that. Now here, Buddhi Yoga is being explained. Buddhi Yoga means balanced intellect. So Sri Krishna says that action of those who act without having balanced intellect is inferior in nature. It is not effective and it is weak. It is devoid of greatness. And for that reason, it is not successful. It is like you want to shoot the arrow and without pulling back, you release the arrow. What happens? It drops right here because it cannot go forward because you didn't build up the potential energy. So like that, if one performs action without having balanced intellect, without having the intellect balanced, buddhi yoga. Buddhi is in yoga. If we do not perform action from that level, the actions are weak. And if the actions are weak, then the result of action is also weak. And that is why those people who act without having balanced intellect are called as pitiable. In this verse, this word pitiable is used because they are in a hurry to perform action. They're not taking time for proper preparation to act. So very quickly they want to do action and they go for, easy things. They go for outer superficial transient joys of life without paying attention to the inner lasting happiness. So for that reason, their actions are not very powerful. And again, another benefit of balanced intellect is that because we stay balanced, we are not affected by success or failure. And this balance comes naturally with the practice of transcendental meditation. We don't have to think and remind ourselves that, oh, it's okay, I was not successful today, I don't have to worry about it, and I want to stay balanced like that. It's not mood making. It comes from real experience of yoga. Then we discussed verse number 50, which says, quote, "He whose intellect is united with the self casts off both good and evil, even here. Therefore, devote yourself to yoga." Yoga is skill in action. This is another famous phrase in Gita. Skill in action. That is yoga karmasu kaushalam. So when one's intellect is united with the self, that is buddhi yukta. Yukta means united. He is beyond good and evil because with the inward stroke, it takes us to the cosmic intelligence. And when you come out of TM, you come out with the qualities of Atma, Sat, Chit, Ananda. And when this happens, it is called as infusion of being. That means you bring these divine qualities into your life, into this world. So that is called as infusion of being. This word also comes many times. This is how we experience improvement in the quality of life because we are bringing the inner divinity into our life. And the next verse, that was the last verse we discussed in the last session. That was verse 51. And this verse says, quote, "The wise, their intellect truly united with the self, having renounced the fruits born of their actions and being liberated from the bonds of birth, arrive at a state devoid of suffering." So this verse talks about karma bandham. That is called as binding influence of action. What is karma bandham? So when we perform actions, these actions produce impressions on our nervous system. And when that impression is there, it creates a desire. And then when we have a desire, we put seeds for future actions. So more actions, more desires, more actions, impression. So this is a cycle, it's going on round and round. So unless this cycle is broken, we are continue to be caught up in the boundaries. Because this action causes impression, impression causes desire, desire causes action. So we are always in that cycle. But now, just now we heard, we have to go beyond action, beyond mental activity. So when this cycle is broken, then karma bandham is broken, because these actions do not produce impressions. When you experience transcendence, when you experience the union of mind with Atma, then there is a break. Then there is no impression on that level. So because you are breaking that cycle, you perform action, but there is no impression. For example, if you draw a line on a stone, the line is there. You can see it very clearly. So with the practice of meditation, gradually that line gets light and light. When you draw a line in water, you draw a line, but it's there only while you draw it. Afterwards, it's not there anymore. So the nervous system gets refined and the impression is not very strong, like when you draw it on a rock. Then what happens when your nervous system is more purified, it's more refined, you're performing actions, but there are no impression. It's like drawing a line in air. It knows sort of awareness where we act, but it's not causing impression. So that way we get relief from this cycle of action, impression, desire, and action again. So this we accomplish with the regular practice of our program. So that ends the discussion that we had last Friday. And now we will begin discussion of verse 52. But before we go on, I would like to ask if there are any questions. आप थोड़ा हिंदी में बताइए.
जो अभी चैप्टर 2 का आपने बताया, तो मूल उद्देश्य था कि जो आपकी कर्म में आसक्ति है उससे दूर यदि हो जाएं आप, जैसे अर्जुन को वो दिग्भ्रमता हो गई ना, ये मेरे रिश्तेदार हैं, ये परंतु वो उनका असली जो अपराध है वो देखने के लिए भूल गए. इन्होंने गलत का साथ दिया, इन्होंने अधर्म का साथ दिया. वो जो दृष्टि भ्रम है वो इसी से आया कि आप कर्म से जुड़ गए थे. ये मेरे हैं, वो कैसे करें, इनका परिवार बर्बाद हो जाएगा, इनकी स्त्रियां वैसी हो जाएंगी, सब ऐसा सोच. तो जबकि वो कह रहे हैं कि कर्म बंधन से अलग होके सम बुद्धि वाला व्यक्ति हो जाए, तभी आप दृष्टि से देख पाएंगे कि क्या धर्म है और क्या अधर्म है. इसमें एक चीज बड़ी सुंदर आती है, तो प्रसंग जैसे डहरिया साहब है, मान लीजिए, वो आज सबके बीच में एवरीबडी नो मिस्टर डहरिया इज प्रिंसिपल MVM शिवनी, सबको मालूम है. मैं डहरिया साहब से दोस्त की तरह बोलता हूँ, अरे पूरा सब बेकार है, आजकल की पढ़ाई बेकार है, फलाना है, बिल्कुल सब गलत पढ़ाते हैं. आपका क्या उत्तर होगा? क्या उत्तर होगा, बोलिए. यदि मैं आपसे अनुरोध करूं कि मैं आपका शिष्य हूं, अब मुझे बताइए कि पढ़ाई कैसी चल रही, पढ़ाई कैसी होना चाहिए, आपका टोन बदल जाएगा। ये सबको ध्यान रखना चाहिए। अध्याय 1 में और अध्याय 2 के श्लोक 6 तक अर्जुन और श्री कृष्ण जी में संवाद हो रहा है एक मित्रों शरीर का। Everybody should remember this. When two friends are talking, there is no question of giving knowledge to them. Exchange of knowledge is not there. ध्यान करिए, जैसे ही श्लोक 7 में अर्जुन ने कहा इस कायरता रूपी दोष से उपहत मैं स्वभाव वाला धर्म के विषय में मोहचित्त हुआ, I am not able to distinguish between good and bad. मैं आपसे पूछता हूं कि जो साधन निश्चित कल्याण कारक हो वह मेरे लिए कहिए, क्योंकि मैं आपका शिष्य हूं। बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है ये, क्योंकि मैं आपका शिष्य हूं, मैं आपकी शरण में आया हूं, इसलिए मुझे शिक्षा दीजिए। Then the exchange of knowledge starts. The role changes. Now they are not friends. One is Guru and another is Shishya. Very important. Everybody should understand this. और इतिहास जो है उदाहरणों से भरा पड़ा हुआ है। जब भीष्म जी के पास उन्होंने भेजा किसी को, वो मालूम है सबको। रावण के पास श्री राम ने लक्ष्मण जी को भेजा, वो किधर जाके खड़े हो गए? सिर के पास। कोई उपदेश नहीं मिला। जैसे ही उनने लौट के बताया कि उनने तो कुछ कहा ही नहीं, बोले सब ठीक है। तो उन्होंने कहा तुम गए कहाँ थे? पैर के पास जाके खड़े हो। देन एवरीथिंग स्टार्टेड। ये ध्यान रखें सब लोग। और समत्व भाव का ये मतलब सब लोगों को समझना चाहिए कि हम कर्म में जरूर करें। भैया जी भी सुबह बता गए, महर्षि जी भी कह गए हैं, कर्म अवश्य करिए। सारे साधु संत, कोई आपको समाधि लेके हिमालय में या किसी जंगल में जाके नहीं बैठने का, परंतु कर्म में आसक्ति ना हो। यदि आप सफल हो तो बहुत अच्छा है, असफल हो ठीक है, अगली बार सही। देयर इज ऑलवेज ए नेक्स्ट टाइम। ये भावना के साथ हम काम करें। यही पूरा अभी तक जो मैडम ने बताया, डॉक्टर हेमा जी ने, वो उसका सार यही। एनीथिंग यू वांट टू नो फर्दर? कोई प्रश्न आपका? कोई नहीं? तो जैसे भैया जी कहेंगे फिर हम अगली बार हम पूछेंगे। फिर सिवनी वाले जो आए, सिवनी बोलते जबलपुर वाले दोनों सज्जन, कोई सवाल आपका? जबलपुर वाले कहाँ गए? खड़े हो जाए जरा, पूछ दे भैया, वो तेरा माइक कुछ तो वो बताओ। आप आवाज ही नहीं सुनाई दी आपकी तो।
जी सर।
जी सर नहीं, कुछ या तो जो समझ में आया वो बताइए, या कोई सवाल हो तो वो करिए। आप तो इतने वो हैं अनुभवी, बताएं। गीता शास्त्र तो सबने पढ़ा है।
फर्स्ट डे करूंगा ना?
नहीं फर्स्ट डे नहीं। आपकी जितनी उम्र हो गई है उसमें फर्स्ट डे नहीं है। ये गीता तो जन्म से पढ़ रहे हैं अपन, तो बचपन से। बोलिए। चलिए, पर ध्यान करिए इधर है।
अच्छा, आप पूछना तो मैं फिर बताऊं।
चिंतन करिए इस पे। एनीबडी फ्रॉम हैदराबाद, एनी क्वेश्चन?
करे जी, he has a question.
हाँ बताएं। ये इधर माइक दीजिए। हाँ,
Kindly explain again that absolute and relative. What is difference between them?
बताएं मैडम।
So, life has two aspects to it. One aspect is always there. It never changes. It is eternal. But what we see on the surface is we see that everything is changing always. आज जो कुछ है वो कल नहीं है. And it is perishable. Absolute is imperishable. that energy is there always. That is why it is eternal and absolute. And that underlying aspect of life, that is the basis of the relative life. The relative is moving and changing all the time because of this underlying absolute. And that is the consciousness, the existence that is always there. Energy is indestructible. We know that. And that is God, Paramatma, Brahman. It's called by different names. And only when we seek, when we want to know what Paramatma is, what is the underlying basis, then we experience that. Otherwise, what we see, buildings, trees, and everything else, the human bodies, the bodies are changing. When you are little, you are a little boy, then you grow up, then you are adult, then you become old. So body is changing all the time. But there is something inside of you that's not changing. You are I. You say I. Aapka naam kya hai? Patwari. Patwari ji, I am Patwari. First name kya hai? So I am Hema. I was a little girl. I grew up, I go to college. I'm still Hema. But when I was little, I was a little girl. When I grow up, I'm a, big woman. But I is the same, right? That I doesn't change, but the body changes. Then we become old, then we drop the body. So this body is changing, but the inner person, the inner consciousness that we call I am Hema, that I doesn't change. That is permanent. Even after we drop the body, it is still there. We may not know that. Some people don't believe it. But after we drop the body, that soul, Atma, it travels. And we get to that in chapter 15, how the body, after body is dropped, it goes on to take the next life. So you take another body. And one example that Krishna Bhagavan gives is, when we change bodies, it is like changing clothes. So when we buy clothes, we wear for some time, they become old. We throw them and we buy new clothes. So we wear new clothes. So like that, this body is there. We are in the body for some time, 70, 80 years, whatever number of years you have. And then the body drops. Body dies. But the Atma continues. It takes another body. So it's like throwing away old clothes, putting on new clothes. So that underlying principle that we call I is called Jivatma. Now, what is the purpose of life? The I that is inside this Jivatma, we are evolving, and the goal is to reach Paramatma. Paramatma is everywhere, all pervading. And like I said, we call it by different names, Brahman or Bhagavan. And Maharishi uses the words absolute. And the goal is to reach for Jivatma to Paramatma. Then our journey is completed. Until then, we continue to have rebirth. So we drop this body, take the next body, then we go on for some more years. Then that body dies, take on another. So until we reach Brahman, it continues to take rebirths. So since the goal is to reach Paramatma, we take on this journey. We do sadhana because we want to be one with Paramatma. And that is why we do all these, program, listening to Vishnu and doing all these, procedures, yagnas, and everything for evolution. Evolution growing from a lower state to a higher state. So that is the purpose of life, to go to a higher state, higher, and then reach the highest. Did I answer your question,
Yes.
Patwariji? Okay. Yes, Pooja? I can't hear you. I still can't.
माइक पंकज माइक दीजिए
Hello.
एक मिनट पूजा जी इसमें बोली माइक
Yeah, my
Okay.
question is for faster evolution, we should have less clothes,
For faster evolution, we should have
less clothes to change.
less
Clothes
clothes.
to change.
Now, okay. I know what you're trying to say. It is said that in our past life, we have accumulated some clothes. Like we have done so many karmas that they're like clothes, they are sitting in suitcases. So when you come from past life to this life, if you have 10 suitcases, it takes long time to empty the 10 suitcases, because eventually you cannot have any suitcase, you cannot have any karmas, you cannot have any clothes with you. You have to be pure. Pure consciousness means you have to get rid of all those clothes and suitcases and everything. So if you have more suitcases, it will take longer. So if you want to evolve faster, that means we have to take into account how much we are accumulating. There is a saying, there is a joke, somebody says, a householder, samsari, they every day in the morning, they get up, they go in the market, what can I buy? I want to buy this, I want to buy this. You're accumulating stuff with your karmas. But a sannyasi, he will get up in the morning and he will say, what can I throw? I want to throw this, I want to throw this, getting rid of stuff. So it is something like that. So the whole idea is to get rid of all the past karma we have accumulated in past life. That's why when we do meditation, we are releasing stress. That karma is sitting in our physiology in the form of stress. So we all know when we do meditation, we are releasing stress. So the stress is going little by little every day. And eventually we will reach a state where all the stress is gone. And like the example I gave in the afternoon, the mirror, dust is there. You're wiping, cleaning, purification is taking place. When all the dust is gone, you can see Atma shining, resplendent. So that's what happened. Another example Maharishi gave is say in a glass of water, you have a glass full of water, you put it in the sunshine drops, and this water reflects that sunshine. If the water is clear, then it reflects sunshine nicely, fully. But let's say this water is muddy. There is mud in it. It is dirty. It cannot reflect the sun because of mud. So Bhagwan is like sun, and the sunshine, if our body is pure like pure water, then we can reflect that divinity. If not, we cannot reflect that divinity. ठीक है, Pooja? Okay. Shall we move on now? Madhavi?
Jai Gurudev.
Can we do, I think we can only do one shloka today because of time factor. Can we have the Pandits recite shloka number 52?
जी दीदी
Sachin, is Madhavi connected?
देखिए मिलाइए
I don't see her come on. Do you hear? We don't hear the recitation by Pandits. She's there.
Do I share the screen, Hemaji?
I can't hear Madhavi.
Do I share the screen?
ये
Am I audible, Hemaji?
Are the Pandits there? Can they recite verse 52? Yadate moha kalilam.
जी दीदी. जी दीदी.
Manish ji is there?
जी दीदी.
Go ahead.
जी दीदी. ॐ यदा ते मोहि कलिलं बुद्धिर्व्यतितरिष्यति तदा गन्तासि निर्वेदं श्रोतव्यस्य श्रोतस्य च. ॐ
Jai Gurudev. When your intellect crosses the mire of delusion, then you will gain indifference to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. Arjuna is caught up in what he has learnt about right and wrong. All his knowledge of the scriptures has not prevented him from falling into the state of suspension or saved him from becoming inactive. He is still held in the state of suspension. This he will overcome only when his intellect rises above duality and reaches the field of pure transcendental consciousness. The state of realization is beyond the limitations of thought, speech, and action. Having reached it, one truly rises above doubt and delusion. Shri Krishna Bhagavan is here summarizing all that he has so far told Arjuna. He has described to him the real state of yoga, a state which satisfies both the intellect and the heart, because bringing fulfillment to both, it leaves no room for doubt or discontent in the domain of either. The emphasis in this verse is on the practice of arriving at transcendental consciousness and allowing the intellect to gain purity. This will mean the fulfillment of all the wisdom of life, of what has been heard in the past and what is worthy of being heard in future. What has been heard and what is yet to be heard will be superseded by the experience of reality. For all hearing about truth gains fulfillment in its direct experience. This verse takes one to a level of life that is free from problems. It makes clear the state in which one will gain indifference and thereby show a way to abandon attachment as demanded by verse 48. Jai Gurudev.
Okay. So in this verse, what had been said so far had been summarized. And the real state of yoga had been described. So what is the real state of yoga? It is a state that satisfies both mind and heart. We just saw how Arjuna's mind and heart were fully developed, but there was no harmony. So in the state of yoga, both mind and intellect are satisfied. It brings fulfillment for both of them. So there is no room for doubt or discontent. So the emphasis here is on gaining pure consciousness. Then our intellect becomes pure. This is the fulfillment of all the wisdom of life, because when you hear something about truth and when you experience it, it confirms what you heard and gives you a great sense of happiness or fulfillment. So you're reading something and then suddenly you understand everything. Then you feel so happy that you have understood that whole thing. And so what you heard is superseded by the experience of reality. So you become indifferent. It doesn't matter anymore what you heard or what you're going to hear, because you have that inner satisfaction. You heard, you have experienced it, and you know that it is real. So for that reason, Sri Krishna Bhagavan is saying that when your intellect crosses the mire of delusion, you go beyond the delusion, then you are indifferent. It doesn't matter what you hear, what you are going to hear, or what you have heard in the past. So this is a short commentary, and we will stop here. Any questions on this one?
Hemaji,
Yeah.
we do the scientific research.
Yes, I forgot. Yeah, please go ahead
Yeah.
with scientific research.
Yes. So this verse 52 is verified by Maharishi Transcendental Meditation through a very important scientific research. Now, in this state, in this scientific research, we come to conclusion that there is increased intelligence, there is more flexibility of construction of reality, and there is lot of correlations between the flexibility of learning and higher EEG coherence and neurological efficiency. That is all through practicing Maharishi Transcendental Meditation and Sayam Siddhi program. Now the thing is, how these scientific research have come to this conclusion, because we have in this verse reached to the state of realization which is beyond the limitations of thought, speech, and action. And here we are gaining the state of transcendental consciousness through transcendental meditation. So what have we gained? We have gained purity. And when a person gains purity, there is a wisdom of life which is developed in the personality. And when you develop that wisdom of life, then you are above duality, as Hemaji has explained. So when you are above duality, that is the state when there is greater increased intelligence, where we can know what is right and wrong, where then we do not, we have the full control to know what you have heard and what is yet to be heard. So ultimately, Maharishi Transcendental Meditation in this verse 52 proves that greater intelligence is developed as we reach the great wisdom of life to decide, and then we have that intelligence power to know exactly what we are doing. And this power is slowly and steadily inculcated by Shri Krishna Bhagwan into Arjun to decide what is going to be the course of action next. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Anita ji. Any questions on this? So the scientific research is showing that there is increased EEG coherence, increase in intelligence, and all that with the regular practice of TM. And in the verse, it is explained that when you reach that state of yoga, then you're satisfied. So that indicates inner happiness and wisdom of life is there. So it doesn't matter what you heard, what you're going to hear, you have that inner feeling of contentment is there. Okay, so we will stop here. And did somebody say something?
Samiji, do you have any questions to pose?
We have some situation with audio. I couldn't hear you very clearly, Madhavi, what you said.
Yes, yes. No, there was a disturbance. I was thinking if they had a question to pose. So just checked with that, Hemaji.
Hemaji, I would just like to say a very special Jai Gurudev to all my colleagues who are sitting there.
I couldn't hear your question.
No question, Hemaji.
Do you want to type it in the chat box?
I said, Hemaji, a very special Jai Gurudev to all my colleagues. I can see them sitting there. I love them. A special Jai Gurudev to them.
I still can't hear you. Can you hear
Okay, Madhuri, it's fine.
Your voice is low. Sachin, can we do something about increasing the volume? I cannot hear what she's saying.
Please keep the mic near your mouth.
It's all right, Hemaji. It's fine. I was only wishing them a very special Jai Gurudev to my colleagues. I can see them sitting there. That's it.
Oh.
It's all right. It's all right.
He's saying, I am saying Jai Gurudev to all of us.
Yeah.
I am seeing my colleagues. Who are her colleagues?
I can recognize few of them, and I send them love for Bhagwat Geeta class, Khareji. Lots of love for Bhagwat Geeta class.
That's good.
Thank you, Jai Gurudev Khareji.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Jai Gurudev. Anita ji, we reciprocate. All of us are reciprocating your good wishes.
Miss you, Anita ji. We wish you were here. Okay. So, Madhavi, let's carry on with group meditation and then Parayana of second chapter, second half, and then we will close. Okay.
May we request all of you to join us for the group meditation. We will have a short meditation for 10 minutes.
Over.
We are going to do 10-minute meditation, and then we will have Parayana. All of us will do 10-minute meditation, and then we will have Gita Parayana for 10 minutes. So let's sit comfortably and begin to meditate.
Hemant.
Just we have finished by 7:30 or we have taken.
It's 1 hour 15 minutes. That's okay. Yeah, you can. Okay. Okay, let's sit comfortably and do 10-minute meditation. Never mind the time. Madhavi will say Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai.
Di-
Hey,
Okay.
Hemaji, it is just
Yeah.
3 minutes short for 9 p.m. So can we go with the Shanti part or shall we have the recitation?
Because of time, what we will do, Pandit Manish ji, पहले पार्थाय प्रतिबोधिताम,
जी
फिर
दीदी
फर्स्ट पहला श्लोक, सेकंड अध्याय का पहला श्लोक, फिर आखिर श्लोक
जी
करना,
दीदी
बस
जी
ये
दीदी
3 करेंगे।
जी दीदी
हाँ, आरंभ कीजिए।
जी दीदी। ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद् गीते भवद्वेषिणी। ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। ॐ संजय उवाच तं तथा कृपयाविष्टम् अश्रुपूर्णाकुलेक्षणम् विषेदन्तमिदं वाक्यम् उवाच मधुसूदनः। ॐ एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति स्थित्वा श्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे सांख्ययोगो नाम द्वितीयोऽध्यायः। ॐ जय गुरुदेव। जय गुरुदेव दीदी।
Thank you.
So unless there are any comments from anybody, any questions or comments, we will do Shanti part and end. Any questions from Ramraj TV, Sachin? Or from the Zoom TV or our audience here? Please go ahead.
प्रश्न हो किसी का पूरे जो अध्याय 1 और 2 के संदर्भ में, जहां तक हुआ है अध्याय 2?
Okay, looks like no questions. So Manish ji, Shanti part, please.
जी दीदी। हरे ओम आद्यो शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगं शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्ति ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वगं शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः क्षमा शान्तिरेधि जतो यतः समीहसे ततो नो अभयं कुरु सन्नाः कुरु परजाभ्यो भयं नाः पाशुभ्यः। हरिः ओम। ओम शांति शांति शांति। जय गुरुदेव।
By then, I invite all of you to join our Friday Gita Satsang. You can join on Zoom or Ramraj TV.
Right.
Jai Gurudev.
जय गुरुदेव।